As America's crime crisis continues to spiral out of control, a new Democrat proposed bill in Maryland would prevent anyone under the age of 25 from being charged with felony murder.
Let's bring in our panel to discuss. We start with the host of Eat, Drink, Smoke, and Tony Katz today. Tony Katz himself. Tony, what are your thoughts when you see something like this?
I want to know if you can still decide your gender under the age of 25. I want to know if you're still able to decide to get an abortion without your parents' notification. This idea constantly and continually that kids can't handle, for example, or young adults can't handle a firearm. You have to be a certain age to have a rifle, or a certain age to have a certain kind of weapon. You're not allowed to be charged. In this case, as you're showing the crimes happening there, and you could show a million different videos that show these kinds of crimes. Where do they not recognize that when they say one thing about age and yet they say a completely different thing over here about age, that they look rather silly? We have to accept the fact that people have to take responsibility for their actions at certain ages, and we have decided that the age of adulthood is 18. That we change that in varying degrees to fit political purposes is madness, and it has to come to an end.
Jessie Jane Duff is also joining us. Jessie Jane, to actually excuse anyone under the age of 25 from felony murder seems like, once again, we are not giving consequences to people who break the law, whatever age they may be.
It just seems like we have a society now that's enabling criminal activity. We look all across the nation, and we just have to see that many major cities have decided that they will not prosecute criminals who are stealing less than $1,000 or $900. We've seen Walgreens and CVS pharmacies fold up shop in San Francisco. And we've seen in New York, where we now have a mayor that's saying, oh, don't go in with a mask on because it's elevating our criminal problem. At the same time, they're doing little to ensure that there's a police presence in these cities. So why is it that we're leaning toward the criminal and enabling the criminal versus enabling our society and its citizens to have a safe and secure environment in which to live? The government has one job: keep us safe. I mean, maybe one or two other jobs, but they seem to have decided that they will not manage our safety and security in the United States. And we now have a criminal element that is running rampant that makes it almost unrecognizable for most of us who grew up here just simply 10 years ago. We did not see this behavior running askew the way it is. And I'm sorry, somebody under the age of 25 can't be held accountable? I joined the United States Marine Corps when I was 17 years old. Treat people as an adult, and they will behave accordingly as an adult.
Yeah, not
It's
only
actually,
that. Go ahead, Tony.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Jesse. There's actually two parts, right? You're right about the enabling, and the other side is trying to get us as a society to accept that their new age requirements make total rational sense based on their ideology. It's the other part. They want us to accept, and the answer is no.
Yeah, the answer is no. And by the way, nobody would be happier for something like this passing than gang members, because they would just have somebody under 25 do it. They already do. I mean, they send out kids. It's like, oh, I'm shocked it was a 15-year-old who did the shooting. Yeah, because they're working the system. They make them do the shooting so that the guy who's 22 heading up the gang doesn't get caught or thrown in. Well, now that just expands the possibilities of throwing people out there that they know are not going to get felony murder. Okay, I'm going to make a completely different switch here in a topic, okay? So we'll leave that. Wanted to ask you about this. A Spanish court, maybe it's coming here too, has ruled that a woman should receive $215,000 for 25 years of unpaid housework as part of a record divorce settlement. The court calculating the payment based on Spain's minimum monthly professional wage. The woman's lawyer says it's a victory for all women who have labored in the shadows of their husbands. Now, I guess, Jesse, the reality is, if there's a divorce and there's a lawyer's involved and there's a judge who makes decisions, I'm sure income levels and what you get used to, I forget the term for it, is taken into account. I just don't think we're used to seeing a price tag on that particular work.
Well, when I read the article about this woman, I discovered that she had never been allowed to work outside of the home.
Right,
and her husband wanted her in the home, did not encourage her to go out and have a professional career of any sort, and she raised their children. 25 years of marriage and being really a full-time homemaker. He's going to refute this, and he's going to try to come back. His agreement originally was to split their assets. So even if they split the assets, but keep in mind, he didn't even allow her to control anything financial. It sounds like it was a really corrupted husband on so many levels that I'm not surprised at the outcome with this.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see that specifically designated. Not that it's wrong, by the way. Maybe it's worth 3 times that. I don't know.
Right, yeah. Tony, your thoughts?
First, don't get married in Spain. That's been something I've lived with for years, and I think it's good advice.
I think it's a good policy, Tony.
And secondly, I actually think both these people as a couple are awful because they weren't a couple. Couples are teams. Teams go in it together. You're in it to the very end. You're working for each other. Never mind this idea of separately. They didn't do that. That's quite obvious as you read the article. She didn't leave at moments where I would argue she should have. And honestly, if you ever on a date with either one of them, don't stick around.
All right. We're going to leave it there. Or unless, Jesse Jane, unless you have some response you would like to share.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. It sounds like she made her bed and she has to sleep in it. But at the same time, you know, you got a husband that really just sounded like a real scoundrel to be married to. I'd say don't date either.
All right.
We don't use the word scoundrel enough. Good on you.
I was just going to say, so don't marry a scoundrel. But what a great word to use.
Sums it right up. All right, Tony Katz, Jesse Jane Duff, thanks as always.